So speaking of nuances, powerhouses, big rent rolls, all things property management, I'm pretty excited to introduce Johnny Bell today. I call him Johnny Bell because he calls me Auntie Fee. And when you meet somebody that calls you Auntie Fee, you realise that's because you're old and they're young. And you don't think that when you're older, right? You're in the room, you think you're vibing, you think you're really cool, right? You're doing all the moving and shaking, and then you look at the room and you go, oh, you guys all think I'm the old lady, don't you? And from then on, I was called Auntie Fee. But Jonathan Bell is a man on a mission. He has built a business, wait for this, organically to 2,500 managements in 5 years. Yeah, wow, right? Yeah, round of applause. So Jonathan has the business Housemark. He also is the founder of a business called Wingman. And in this session today, Jonathan is going to share with you, so get your pens ready, he's going to share with you the insights around how utilising Wingman as well as his onshore Housemark team has really been the fabric of how he's been able to achieve these great results, as well as his awesome energy. So please join me in welcoming Johnny Bell.
Thank you. I actually call her Auntie Fifi. I actually have an auntie called Fiona of a similar age in Canada, so that's where I got the name. I think that photo is the first and last time you'll ever see me in a suit. That's very much more me. So for everyone, my name is Jonathan Bell. I'm 28 years old. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about my story over the last 5 years since starting my real estate business and a few other businesses across the journey. So there's 4 businesses that I own. So Wingman Group's the offshoring, Housemark, which I'm going to share a lot about, my property management business that's given me some grey hairs. I started a maintenance business called Fast Property Maintenance. So we do all our own internal maintenance, and then Wingman Creative as well. So for those of you who don't know, I come from a tennis background. So before real estate, I wanted to be a professional tennis player. And I remember I was about 16 years old and I went to New Caledonia. I was training about 5 hours a day and doing part-time school. And I was like 17 and I went to New Caledonia and I played a 13-year-old French boy. And he absolutely smashed me. I think he won 6-love, 6-love. I was in tears on my way home. And that's when I realised I was decent in Australia, but tennis is a really tough sport. And internationally, I wasn't going to cut it. So that's when I started to look elsewhere. So then I started to become a tennis coach. And through becoming a tennis coach, I got to meet it's quite an affluent sport, so I got to meet some cool property developers and people in real estate. So then I spent 6 months at a Ray-White office in Brisbane. I got thrown in a room and started doing BDM and a bit of sales. After 6 months, I actually thought I didn't want to go into residential real estate. So then I went into the corporate world, and my parents are doctors and nurses. My 2 brothers are doctors, and my twin sister is a physio. So I would say the black sheep of the family. And they wanted me to get into corporate, wanted me to go to university. So I spent 2 years at Colliers International selling projects, and I used to sit in those little dongles in big land developments and wait for people to come through and try and sell them a house and land package. And that's when I actually then fell in love with the idea of residential real estate again, because when you're sitting in those dongles, you're very much at the helm of the developer. So if you're sitting there and the developer wants to increase their pricing, you just have to wait until the leads come in. And being a young, ambitious person that I was, I very much wanted to make sure that anything I did, it was in my control, and I only wanted to do things that if I wanted to grow, I could grow. I also thought that real estate is probably the closest thing to sport. It doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter where you come from. The harder you work, I genuinely think the more results you can have, and property management particularly, I think you can build a very awesome asset very quickly, and you don't need a lot of capital to get started. So here's where I started. So that was my first ever keyboard. It cost me $20, and I actually got my first ever for rent sign done for $3 in the Philippines. When I started, it was called Bell Estate Agents, because my last name was Bell. And it worked in my favour a little bit, because I'd have, when I was cold calling people, I'd say, oh, I know you guys, I know Bell Property, you guys have been around for years. I was in school years ago. That was my offer. So my first 6 units was a 6-pack of units. and I negotiated with the owner. I said, let me live in one for $200 a week and I'll manage the rest for free. And underneath the office there was a garage where I had my jet ski, and I just had a lockbox there, and people would walk in, get their keys out of the lockbox and go into their $1,000 a week rental. And I would sit upstairs, and sometimes my attention to detail is worse than Manos, I think. And people would go in, and then the keys wouldn't be in the office or in their lockbox. So then I'd get the phone would ring, and then they would leave. I'd text them and say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not at the office. I'll get them into the lockbox. They'd leave, and I'd run downstairs, put the keys in, and run back up. And then I'm going to talk about Wingman. Very special to my heart, Jess Villa. She was my first ever staff member. She started with me when I had 60 managements. I met a guy at a car wash, and I spoke about this a couple of years ago, and I speak about this guy at the car wash. He was running this really successful car wash, and he said, you have to use these people in the Philippines. They run my business. And he actually had them hitting the phones, cold calling, offering them discounts on car washes, and he was running huge car washing businesses doing it, and I was intrigued and got to know it. So he introduced me to a friend of a friend over in the Philippines, and that's where I met Jess Villa, and she became my 2IC in my business. At the time, I couldn't afford an Australian staff member, and she's still with me today. I'm going to share a little bit about that. So where are we now? So 5 years, we're at 2,500 managements. We have a model where our property managers manage between 250 to 350 properties each. Last month, we did 91 new managements organically, and we're on track to do 100 new managements in May this month. So that's what we're going for. Very much focus on landlord satisfaction. Our fees are 7 to 8%. Our double AMI is around 2,400 per property. 70% of our rent roll is houses, and then 30% apartments. We don't work in those big developments or anything. We're just like a normal real estate agency, and we only do property management. That's a big point of difference for us. We don't do sales. We're a property management specialist, and that was a big part of why I started the business. Is I wanted to try and focus on property management, and I've always said turn the ugly kid into the cool kid of the industry. And I think when people think about property management, they think it's an industry that, high staff turnover, property managers don't get a lot of respect, and I really wanted to try and make a change in that space. And I always say to my property managers, imagine if you can look after 200 landlords, and those 200 landlords trust you, and you don't have to do entries, exits, routine inspections. All you do is manage those properties and manage those relationships. It's a pretty sweet job. So I think I wanted to try and create some excitement in the industry and try and focus on property management and make that change. I think a few lessons that I've learned and what I do, a lot of people ask me, what do you spend your time doing now? One thing I live by is a Richard Branson thing I saw on Instagram, actually. And he said he focuses on three things. Create a crystal clear vision for your team, find the best people in the world to execute it, and then get out of their way. And that's really what we try and do in our business, is we've created a vision where we're focusing on changing the status quo in the property management industry. We try and find the best people in the world to be able to execute it, Nicholas Georges, and then we get out of their way, we let them do what they're best at. I've very much focused on when I find someone who's really good, I do not micromanage whatsoever. I let them do their thing. We have a work from home model for anyone who wants to work from home as well, and we really just try and empower our people to do what they're good at. The other thing that we really focus on, and I do a lot, is delegating. I think that what got me to, and I'm going to talk about my journey, but what got me to 100 managements wasn't going to get me to 1,000 managements. And what got me to 1,000 managements isn't going to get me to 2,500. And where I'm at now, there's things that I need to drop and let go of, even though I could potentially be good at them, to go to the next level. And I think that's what I see a lot in Wingman as well, is business owners and principals. They hang on to what they were good at, and it's because it's comfortable. And even for me, I had about 50 referral partners who became really good friends of mine, who referred in managements to me, and I managed those relationships. It was a really daunting thing when I was about 1,000 managements to let those relationships go and bring in BDMs to actually manage those relationships, because I was really worried that they weren't going to refer and they'd only refer to me. I made the decision to let them go and give them to the BDMs. Within a week, the new BDMs are actually managing them better than I was. And if I didn't let go of those relationships, there's no way I could have gone from 1,000 to 2,000 and focus on the strategic vision of the business. So this is, I found this really interesting when I looked back on my journey and points of difference. And I think for any BDMs in the room or anyone who wants to grow the rent roll, your points of difference can change. And I think a lot of people, when they talk about property management, sales is like the one night stand and property management is a relationship. So when you're going into a house, the landlord doesn't want to know about you. They want to, they're thinking, can I build a relationship with this company or this person for the next 10 years? They don't want to know about your vacancy rates. They don't want to know about how many properties you leased last week. They don't really care. They're just trying to build a connection. And all of my BDMs in my business hadn't come from a property management background. And all I did as a recruitment tool is, could I sit and have dinner with this person and would I feel better after dinner, or did I leave and go, oh my God, I never want to see them again? If you don't want to see them again, that's probably how the landlords feel as well. So I think Manos mentioned it yesterday, is I didn't have a business card. I'd never go into, and I don't do them anymore, but none of my team do. We don't go into our presentations with a business card or with any presentation tools. We just walk into the house, and it's quite a daunting feeling, but the whole idea of it is we just want to get to know the landlord and find out what they're looking for and just be really, really likable. And that's really the foundation of how we started. And I think for BDMs is just try and build a relationship with them, find out what they want, and then give them what they want. If they get speaking and they're a first-time investor and they're nervous, then you talk about all of the amazing processes and systems and staff that you've got for them. And I think that that's very much something that PM businesses should focus on. And let your points of difference change. A lot of people have a point of difference and they've got the same point of difference for 10 years. So from 0 to 100 managements, my point of difference was personal touch. You could call me anytime. I'm going to be managing your properties myself. I've seen your property. I know that there's big agencies out there who have amazing infrastructure, but for me, you know you're getting me. And that was an amazing pitch to 100. When I got to 300, I couldn't do that anymore. So I would say, we've got an amazing team, whereas I'd say, you don't want me to do entry and exit report because I've got a terrible attention to detail, but I'm the best person to get you the most amount of rent, and I'm the best person to find the tenant. So in our business, I'm going to be doing all the leasing, and then there's a property manager who I've handpicked who's going to manage your property, and we work really well as a team. Then that's the pitch. And then from 300 to 1,000, we then really played on the fast growing. We're really on a growth journey, and we're really focusing on continuing to grow. We're big enough where if one of our staff members leaves, it doesn't matter because someone else can manage the property. So we've got scale, but we're not too big where you feel like a number. And now we're at 1,000 plus or 2,500. We're market leaders in our area. We leased 91 properties last month. We've got 2,500 landlords who have picked us. We didn't buy these managements, and there's a reason that people are choosing to be with us. So it's a market share play. So I think as a business, think about what is your point of difference at your current life cycle, and think about what's going to actually trigger the landlord to go, that makes sense. Instead of just being, we've got the lowest vacancy rates, we've got low staff turnover, because that just doesn't mean anything to a landlord. And I think I heard it before about sharing your vision. Share your vision with your landlords. We do so many videos to our landlords telling them we're trying to change the status quo and bringing them on our journey. While we were growing very quickly, we realised the importance of structure. And when I was managing the first 200 properties myself, that's where I realised how hard property management was. And that's where we really tried to create a business and I talk about the 3 wins, which is the holy grail for property management. A business that makes money, a minimum of 30% profit, I think, if you're doing property management, because it's such a tough industry. A business that pays staff members and property managers really, really well, and a business that can give a level of service that no other business can give. If you can hit those 3, then you've got the holy grail. And I think that the structure we've tried to do focuses on that. So this is our structure for our property management business. We've got 2, and I think that this is an awesome structure, but it doesn't work for everyone. And I think that as you scale, we've got 2,500 managements. Every property manager is different, so you need to mold it around your property manager. but we've got an SPM here. The senior property manager, every senior property manager has an executive assistant based in the Philippines who does all of their back-end tasks. They then share a junior property manager who does all of the entries, exits, and routines. So the offshore person, they're doing all of the tenant communication via email, the lease renewals, the arrears, a lot of the reconciling, literally strip away all the back-end tasks. And the number one role of our senior property managers is to speak to 15 landlords every single day. That is their number one KPI. They then, and we've taken it, we've got a company, Tesla, and that Tesla's for when we've got a lot of interstate investors. When they come to Brisbane, our senior property manager's job is to pick that landlord up, take them to the property, show them around, take them back to the airport. Like, the experience that gives them is world class, but you can't do that if your senior property manager is focusing on all of the day-to-day activities that come with property management, and I call it the noise or the toil of the industry. And I think that the other thing is, as leaders in offices, you need to understand is, if property managers are dealing with really unhappy tenants and they're dealing with just day-to-day noise, it's really hard for them to shift their mindset when they're speaking to a landlord on the phone. So it's in everyone's best interest as a business owner to actually have your property managers happy, because they're then going to have better relationships with their landlords, and they're going to want to speak to more landlords. But as a leader, I think it's our job to be able to take away a lot of the noise and take away a lot of the back end, so they do have time to do those things and remove a lot of the excuses. How do I go back? There. So just here, I think that's what we've tried to do on a really simple level, is remove, I think that most senior property managers are spending 80% of their time doing admin and 20% building relationships. We flipped it on its head, where we only allow our senior property managers to do a maximum of 20% on admin and 80% on building relationships. It's also really good for senior property managers because every senior property manager wants to become a team leader. It's a really good transition, because if you're managing 350 properties and you've got an executive assistant in the Philippines and a junior property manager, that's your little hub and that's your team. So it means that your senior property managers can still be income generating for the business and also get the satisfaction of building a team. And when they go into the family barbecue and someone says, "What do you do?" they don't say, "I'm just a property manager." They can actually say, "I'm a team leader at a fast-growing real estate agency." And that's what we really try and focus on, is empowering our property managers to be proud of what they do. Two awesome case studies. So Kyle Grimmond, he's one of my senior property managers. He actually came from sales into property management, which I thought was really cool. He was earning good money, but he lives a lavish lifestyle, and he came to us and said, "I love the business, I just can't be on the money that I'm earning." And it was $80,000. He said, "If you want to keep me, you've got to, I need $120,000 a year to live." And I just was like, oh my God, he's such a good property manager, but that's such a hard pill to swallow. But in our business, we don't think why. Everything we do is why not? Why can't we pay him 120? What do we need to do as a business to actually pay him 120 and it's still profitable for the business, and the clients are getting a good service, and he's loving his life? So we actually worked on a structure where we increased his portfolio. He's now managing 391 properties. He's got a junior property manager who does his entries, exits, and routines, and he had to train up one of our other juniors to become a senior property manager who now is managing 150 properties. And he's got 2 EAs in that pod. So that pod is more profitable than any other pod, and he's the highest paid property manager in Queensland, earning more than a lot of team leaders, which I thought was really cool. And I think that is, he's now really happy. The business is making really good money. And we've actually been able to retain someone in our industry that typically would have gone off and gone and got a job at government and left the industry. So I thought that was really special. And I think that's where the industry is going to move, is how do we pay our property managers 6 figures and actually be an awesome, and it actually be a really positive part of our business, and how do we take people out of different industries and bring them into our industry? But the only way to do that, managing properties, is to pay them really well and obviously build an amazing culture. The other one is Nick DeRosa. So he started my Gold Coast office, I think 18 months ago now, and 12 months, when he first started, I said, you've got one KPI, you have to have 3 face-to-face meetings a day, that's it. And every Thursday night, I'm going to come to the Gold Coast, and I'm going to spend the day with you on Friday, and you need to book me in for 3 meetings. That was his only KPI. He had to meet financial planners, accountants, agents who didn't have rent rolls, buyer's agents, just build a really good network. He's a really good guy. No market share. I actually gave him my first ever keyboard, and he had to fill that up before I gave him I gave him any money for investment for marketing. Within 12 months, he got to 256 managements. And it was really awesome because, like, for me, getting to 1,000 was awesome, but to help someone else be able to build that, it was a really cool feeling, and I just thought it was such a simple way to do it. And that's what I try and do is, how do we get our BDMs focusing on growth, having as many face-to-face meetings as possible? How do we get our property managers managing as many properties as possible? And how do we build a culture that people want to come and work at our office? And that's really how Wingman started. So we had a lot of businesses say, hey, how are you doing this? We started hosting roadshows. And I think that the VA industry had a really bad stigma, and everyone's had the Telstra or Optus experience where you think of this unreliable person and you think of this terrible experience, and you're going to have this person who's, the only reason you use offshore is to cut costs. That's what people think about the industry. Whereas all I had was the most amazing experiences. I had 20 offshore staff members. If I ever needed anything done well, I'd send it offshore, not onshore. Most of my staff members over there have been with me for a long time. They very rarely leave. Jess Villa was running my business, and she's been with me for 5 years. And I just had the most amazing experience, and I just was wondering why everyone wasn't doing it. And when I met Nick, I said to him, I genuinely think every single business in Australia should use remote professionals in some way. Doesn't mean that you use them. It's not about just offshoring your business, but it's about utilising the power of the Philippines. They're loyal, they're hardworking, they want to learn, and they're very cost effective. For me, it was a no-brainer, and that's what we really tried to focus on. So we've got 500 staff in the Philippines now, and we work with about 250 agencies across Australia. This is a video that's going to play that explains. Oh, sorry.
From the Real Estate Gym, and I can tell you the number one common denominator the best of the best have in Australia and New Zealand, people like Alex Jordan, Tony O'Doherty, and of course Michael Coombs, is they use remote professionals. I've been using remote professionals, and I can tell you Wingman is transforming the industry.
Yeah, well, Wingman started as looking at getting one person on board, and now it's probably 2 or 3, and now it's looking at the back end. So it's really evolving to be a big part of our business. And again, I think it's going to be a big part. It's going to allow my business to go to another level with more service and more outcomes for our clients.
Goodbye contracts, goodbye marketing, goodbye digital price updates, goodbye pre-listing kits. It's all going to be done by Wingman. What you're going to be doing is talking to current buyers, current sellers, and future sellers. That's where the money is in real estate.
Honour to be on Oxford Street, your kingdom, Tony. What do you want to use the offshore for?
We want to use it to free up our time, to give us the capacity to do more, to increase our client service, our vendor management, our pre-campaign work, just to do more. We want to perform at a higher level. My team and I have this core belief that we're doing 40% of what we could be doing. 80% is the max you can hit over time. So we're halfway there on our journey. We're going to double our business over the next couple of years. And in order to do that, we had to start to think differently. And your business has given us the ability to use our time to create more time.
And I think that video, the whole vision behind that was, again, you think of VAs and you think cheap and you think that they're not good at what they do. And our whole vision was how do we break that limiting belief, because they are amazing. So we invested a lot in, obviously, that's not a real plane, but invested a lot into our marketing to be able to actually break that. And we, if we've got time, I'll play it at the end, but we took X-Media, who's the number one of a very good videography company, to the Philippines, because we just wanted to showcase what the Philippines is actually all about. 2 case studies I wanted to share, Richard and Adam. So Adam Villa is the husband of Jess Villa, who was my first ever staff member. Richard actually, so one thing in our marketplace, we're in New Farm in Brisbane, so it's quite an affluent area, and I was really nervous to be able to, for people to know that we used offshore, because I was really worried that, you know, people are paying high management fees, high rent. We were doing this executive rental market. We were very much going for high-end rentals. We've probably got 200 properties over $2,000 a week, and we really focus on that concierge, but we're using the Philippines. So it was a really interesting contrast. So I was really nervous to actually let people know and then also let them answer our phones. I found this guy, Richard. He's been with us for 18 months. And when I first spoke to him, you had no idea he was in the Philippines. He's actually got an American accent, and he used to sell penny stocks on Wall Street. So he used to, in 2008, he was part of the GFC, and he tells a funny story about his time there, and I've introduced him to a few people here. He answers 75 calls a day from tenants. So we're actually building, we've just finished it. It's going to be launching in a couple of weeks. It's our tenant concierge, where tenants can call us from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. every single day, and every call will be answered within 3 rings. We're going to have 3 staff members, and it's going to be a big point of difference for our business, and we're going to have 3 Philippine staff members answering the phones. We used to, because of the volume of what we're doing, the amount of tenants calls is insane into our business, so we were just churning through receptionists in our business because it was so hard to find someone to do that job. Richard has changed the game for us, and he's been amazing at being able to answer it. We haven't used Richard because it's cutting costs. We're using him because he's better at the job, and also it gives us an opportunity to free up our Australian staff to do what they enjoy. Because answering 75 calls a day is just brutal, especially potential tenants who are desperate to look for rental properties. Adam's the other one. So he's actually my CFO based in the Philippines. He runs the accounts for 5 businesses that I own. He actually is a qualified accountant. So when he first started, before he started with me in the Philippines, there's 18 million people in Manila. It's actually quicker to walk than drive. And I took Nick with me last year. We went 10 kilometers, and it took us 3 hours on a bus. It was brutal. So in the Philippines, if they work at an office, then they have to leave. It's about a 4-hour journey to work. So Adam would get up at 4:30 in the morning. He would get on the bus at 5 a.m. He'd get to work at 9 a.m. He'd work from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. He would then wait for the bus till 6 p.m. and get home at 10 p.m. Monday to Saturday. And he would have been earning $300 a week. If he was lucky. So he actually said to me when he first started, he's like, I actually don't see Selena, who's his daughter, I don't see Selena awake from Monday to Saturday. I can only see her on Sunday. So that blew me away. And we have a work from home model in our business for offshore. So they actually get to work from home. So we set them up with computer, internet, and we make sure that they've got a really stable environment for security and also for capacity reasons. So that is like the holy grail for a Philippine staff member. So why they're so loyal and why they care so much is because you're helping change their life. So Selena, I was walking in the Philippines 2 years ago. I was walking past Selena's room, who's Adam and Jess's daughter. She was sitting on the ground on her knees praying, saying, "Dear God, please let Mummy and Daddy do good work for Johnny tomorrow." Like, it's really hard to explain what an impact it's making to other people's lives. And again, it's been really good for our culture in Australia, because you have a property manager turn up to work and they're crying about something trivial, and then they speak every morning. Our Philippine staff and our Australian staff have a meeting, and the Philippine staff members tell them a serious problem, and it's a bit of a reality check. You're like, oh, I've actually got it pretty good here. So it's been really good, and it's been something that, it wasn't planned to learn all these things, but it's been... I thought those 2 stories really showcase what type of people that you can employ in your business. I did want to talk a little bit about the do's and don'ts. Offshore is not fairy dust. The amount of people that call me saying, hey, can the offshore grow my business? The job of a Philippine staff member is not to grow your business, it's to free up your Australians to grow the business. And they're amazing staff members, but they are people. And when someone says offshoring doesn't, or they say it doesn't work about offshore, it doesn't work. It's a human, they're people. So if you've had a bad experience, then I think it's really important to think, why did I have a bad experience? It doesn't mean offshore doesn't work. It might mean the person might have been the person wasn't trained well enough, they weren't in the right environment, or they weren't actually managed correctly from your Australian business. So I put a few do's and don'ts on here, but I think the main thing is to treat them like any other staff member in your business. They're a human being, they're very good people, every single person we employ has a university degree. So if you change that mindset and you treat them like people, you'll have a completely different experience. You do need to manage them. Like, I think that it's important that every day you have a meeting with them, or someone from your business has a meeting with them to give them direction for the day, and don't expect them to work amazingly from day one. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our academy we've built over there, but from day one, it's like any other staff member. They're not going to work straight away. It's going to be a journey. And I think that there's, as a business owner, one thing we find is the business owner's like, yep, let's do it. And then they don't share that vision with their property managers. And then their property managers go, whoa, 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 what's going on here? Like, why are we employing these people? Are they going to take my jobs? What's going on? I don't want to train them. I think it's really important, if you do this, 2 things you have to do. One is you have to bring them on the journey and get them to buy into it, and we're more than happy to help with that. But number 2 is, if it doesn't work on day 2, if the offshore person makes a small mistake, not to just collapse and say, okay, we won't use it anymore. I think if you go down this track, you have to, as a leader, give it time to actually make it work and support your property managers, but then also get them to buy into it. And things that we say to people is, what will your life look like in 6 months' time if you don't have to do lease renewals anymore? If you've got a full-time EA who's answering emails while you're out meeting a landlord, how is that going to help you? And I think the one thing we talk about when we onboard a staff member is do everything in your power to make it work, and give it 6 months. So meet them every day, give them ongoing training, BCC them into every email, explain what your role is and what their role is. And it's a really good way to actually learn how to become a leader. And I think that there's a lot in that space in regards to bringing them on a journey. But again, just the best thing to do is just treat them like any other Australian staff member, which we've heard a lot about that leadership. Here's some tasks I put on here just to get you thinking about things that you can offshore. One thing I think is really cool that we've started to do with sales businesses in particular, every single buyer that comes through an open home on a Saturday, every single buyer, do they own an investment property in the area? Get an offshore person on a Saturday to cross-reference every single buyer in all of the softwares that are available, and see if they own a property on a Saturday. Your BDM on Monday morning must call all those people and say, thank you so much for coming to the open home. I see you own an investment property in the area. The sales agents asked me to give you a call, and I'd love to talk to you about how your experience has been. It's the easiest way to get a warm lead. The other one that sales agents do as well is, if a sales agent meets a buyer, if they own a property in the area, there's a good chance they have to sell that to buy that one. So you should be calling them first on a Monday. So using the offshore in that department, we've used it really well for growth. The other one we've done is for people looking for their rent roll growth, to get them to download a list of every single mortgage broker in their area and get your BDM to meet them. For us, we've got 5,000 to 7,000 loans in our business that mortgage brokers can service. What mortgage broker wouldn't meet your BDM if your BDM called and said, hey, I can see you own a local Aussie. I've got 7,000 mortgages that we're looking for some mortgage brokers to partner with. Would you be free for a coffee? They'd say yes every single time, compared to a BDM saying, hey, can you send me your managements? They're just going to say, I already work with someone. So you can, that's a really good target list, and I think that's something that you can get someone offshore to do. The PM tasks, they explain themselves, but it's really how do we free up our senior property managers to focus on relationship building. We're just backtracking to my property managers doing 15 landlord calls a day. It's about September last year, we started losing a few managements from service, and they were the ones I brought on, so I was filthy. Especially when you drive out to 45 minutes to pick up keys and you actually remember that whole journey of onboarding that management. When a property manager loses it from service, it really hurts. So I remember when I did the 15 landlord calls a day, I think we lost like 3 managements from service, which was a lot for us in a month. And I called everyone into a meeting room and I said, right, Every single day, you have to make 15 landlord calls a day, and you've got to screen record your screen, because they work from home. So I said, happy to work from home. Screen record your call list, and you need to show me that you've called 15 landlords every single day. The next month, we didn't lose one management from service from that one change. So I thought that was really cool. It's a really simple thing to be able to do. But again, you can't ask your property managers to call 15 landlords if you're not helping them in a different department. 15 landlords a day is 75 a week. That's 150 a fortnight. That's 300 a month. So it means they're speaking to every landlord monthly. So one of the reasons offshore doesn't work, in the Philippines, the average house size is 40 square meters, which is the size of a bedroom. So they don't know what a wine cellar is when they see a wine cellar on a realestate.com ad. They don't know what a hot water system is. There's no hot water over there, so they have cold showers. So you actually have to teach them on those things. And a lot of the reason it doesn't work is you employ the staff member overseas with no real estate experience and say, hey, go reply to this tenant. Or can you do a lease renewal? Like, what's a lease renewal? So we teach them on what's landlords, what's tenants, what's a Form 6 or an agency agreement, what's a tenancy agreement. We actually teach them on all those things, and then we put them through a 3-month training academy before they go into any business. So that's one thing that we try and do is we do at the moment we're doing 1,000 interviews a week, and we put about 100 people a week through the training academy. If they turn up 10 minutes late, they're gone. If their internet's not good enough, unfortunately, they don't make it. So we actually try and find the best of the best in the Philippines to work in businesses, and that's our 3 months is not only for training, but also to see if they're the right fit for Australian real estate businesses. Just real estate's a demanding industry, so you've got to have a certain type of person who can do it. Some people we worked with who you guys saw earlier. So Alex Jordan, he's a lead agent in Brisbane. It was really cool when I really like Alex because I went and met him, and he the reason he uses offshore, he didn't need offshore, like he doesn't need to cut costs or he didn't need to do it, but he actually was doing it because he liked the idea of helping someone overseas, but also he did it because he wanted to give his Australian staff a reality check. And it actually said it's actually worked really well. Michael Coombs in Sydney, Tom Panos, Tony O'Doherty, and Leah J. Leah J was an awesome one. They got 4,000 managements. They're an amazing business. Strongly suggest following them. They're what they've done and what Cassandra does as the general manager. She's a really good human. And they're a property management only business as well. And they've been working with us for, the cool thing about them is they didn't have offshore and they had a bad experience, so we had to turn their property managers around, and they've got about 13 of our staff now. But more importantly, we work with Manos and Maria. I don't know why Nick George just left Arthur off the screen, but... I'm not sure. Oh, you know this. But also, yeah, I met Maria and Manos at when the Australian Open was on, and we went for lunch, and it was, I just left meeting them, and I remember calling Nick. I said they're just such warm people, and really enjoyed to get to know them, and really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this network. Loved dinner last night, and it's awesome to see a network of people that actually want to help each other grow, and it's hard to find in real estate. Everyone wants everyone to succeed, but not to their level. And when you go past them, they get upset. So I think I could notice here, everyone genuinely wants each other to grow, and congrats to Maria and Manos and Arthur for what you put on today.
From Wingman.
I might skip that one because I've only got 4 minutes. But here's three books that have changed my life in my short life, and I love. Ready, Fire, Aim is amazing. It talks about the 4 chapters of business. So chapter 1, it talks about infancy, childhood, adolescence, and adulthood, and it talks about the different challenges, the different opportunities, and the different things to look out for. And it's a universal book that's been amazing. It doesn't matter the industry, and it talks about revenue, how to get to the next stage of revenue in your businesses. So that's been amazing. The 4 Agreements for Personal Growth. I think in the industry we're in, becoming a really good human and being really self-aware is really important, especially when you've got, for me, it really hurt when you train up a property manager or you train up staff and then they leave in this industry. So I think working on yourself to be a better leader and a better person has been really good for me and my business. And the great Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights, I absolutely love that podcast as well. I'm going to finish off with a video of the Philippines. It's a 6-minute video. It was when we first started Wingman, and I thought it would share a little bit about the culture over there and the people. And we're going again in September this year. We're inviting 50 Australian clients. we're hiring out a whole resort, so we're going to have 500 Philippine staff members and all our clients, and that's something we want to do annually to bring everyone together. So appreciate the opportunity to talk, and thank you so much.
Where are we off to, lads?
Philippines, Manila.
Any words, mate?
I'm super excited.
What are we thinking?
I don't know, man. I'm starving.
Hey, you can edit hair on me, right?
We've just landed in Makati in Manila. This is our annual team trip where we focus on building relationships and a better outcome for our clients. We're super excited for what's ahead and super pumped. You can tell from the atmosphere around us that's going to be a bit of fun, and we're really excited.
Day 2 here in Manila, and we're heading to collect the Philippines team about an hour out of the city, and then we're going on a 2-hour bus ride with the team for an action-packed weekend in Gristle Park.
Few hours, just met about 100 of the Philippine staff members, had an awesome lunch and about to enjoy dinner. Cheers.
Let's get ready to rumble.
We had the fastest growing real estate business in Australia, started from my bedroom because of the amazing work of the Philippines. And then I was like, why is every business in Australia not doing this? So Jono and I had a vision that we wanted to create an opportunity for as many Filipinos as possible.
Describe today in one word.
It's enjoyable and fun.
That was 3 words.
Sorry.
One word.
Okay, sorry. It's fun.
Epic. Excellent.
Fun.
Energy.
Isaac.
What's one word to describe today?
Awesome.
Life-changing.
Enjoyable. Ecstatic.
Super crazy. Tyler eating balut?
Guys, just had an amazing day with the Wingman crew. We got to hear from some of their leaders who recognised some of the staff that work tirelessly. Got really emotional, they're so appreciative, they love the job that they do, and we can't wait for tomorrow.
Testing.
You ready to roll?
Wait up.
You ready to go?
Not yet. Wait, let me see my face in this. My name is Chess. Again. My name is Chess. I'm the head of training in Wingman.
Hi, my name is Adam, and I'm the acting CFO of Housemark and Wingman Group.
My name is Justine, and I am the head of accounts and offshore operations. I work as a real estate admin.
I'm a receptionist from Housemark.
Hi, my name is Belle, and I'm a remote professional. I'm Maria, executive assistant of Daniel Fari.
Hello, I am Laura, and I am working with Plum Property under Liz Browning.
Hi, my name is Jeff. I'm the head of recruitment here at Wingman.
I'm Quinn. I'm the marketing assistant of Housemark and Wingman.
Oh yeah!
Welcome to Wingman.
We kicked off the day with some awesome team building activities. Tonight we're about to reconvene for some dinner, some drinks, and a little bit of fun. You're on the phone.
Going to experience here, but I've got to tell you, I've just come out of the awards night, the dinner that we've had tonight, and my mind has been blown. I've had the opportunity to all day just to get to know these people, and As someone who utilises the services of a remote professional, I've now had the ability to connect with them as humans, and it's been amazing.
Where's the voice gone?
It's been a great couple of days in Bakashunan. We're on our way now back to Manila to do some strategy and what the next 90 days looks like on the way to Christmas. We're so pumped and looking forward to get back here next year.
Just dropped the team off the 3-day team building event, and it's actually really hard to put into words the experience that we had. The talent within the Philippines is genuinely the best workforce I believe you can have in the world.
Their dedication and commitment to Australian clients is just incredible. It's 5:45 in Manila, and we're about to go for a run.
Just had 2 scoops of pre-workout.
Let's go dodge some traffic. Yeah, pretty warm weather this morning. Now we're going to go pack our bags and get ready for Boracay.